Hey, this is Dave with Brazos Barbell, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about deadlifting, and we're going to try to carry the momentum from that last deadlift video we made, the anchoring deadlift video. I was thrilled with all the positive feedback that I got from that one and how many people have sent me their videos of how that video has helped them tremendously with their deadlifts. So off of that, we're going to try to maybe create a little bit more individuality and create a video on really where you should set your hips, maybe your shoulders in relation to the barbell, how to create tension in your legs, and a lot of the finer details of how high your hips should be or any of those kind of things. So we'll jump right into the videos. Okay, so one of the first cues that we're going to use here is going to be open behind the bar. So what this is going to be is I imagine that basically the bar is a wall, or I'd really even say maybe just in front of the bar, maybe the front of the plates, there's a wall. And so when I'm opening up my legs, I am very deliberately trying to basically keep my chest, my knees, everything opening behind that wall and create structure there. So I think one of the problems that I think people make when they're getting started with their sumo is that they aren't being deliberate enough with really trying hard to spread their knees. So we can say in this position that if we'll draw a line where my foot is right here, that the top of my femur is really lined up basically directly on top of right here. So depending on where your feet are, this is going to be different for everybody. If your feet were a little bit closer and they were in here, your femur may be more like in here. But either way, we're still really trying to spread the knees hard and open hard. So what that will do, the more you stay open, the closer your hips can be to the barbell. Obviously, your knees come in, your hips go back, and that creates inefficiency. So I took this little back view right here because we can see the same thing. And really, some of the points that we'll cover later is going to be really how high my hips are in this position, that I've created a pretty good angle down in here, and that I'm not getting flat like I would in a squat or something. But if there was a straight line, there's a wall right in front of me right here, the pull should be happening behind that wall, and that'll make more sense from a direct side angle later. But when I'm opening right here behind the wall, I'm also with my shins not letting them get forward at all. I'm being really deliberate about this, shin staying vertical, and actually I've created space down here. My shin is away from the barbell a little bit because my hips are leveraged back a little bit. So I feel a little bit weight on the outside of my feet. This would be kind of the same cue as if we're saying, weight slightly back on your heels or whatever on the conventional deadlift or something. So we're just trying to create good leverages. So open behind the bar. Now, depending on the length of the arms of the lifter, so this position here is going to be a little bit different. With me, I'm able to take and I end up pulling from this position because my arms are so long, right? My hands are already on the barbell, and when I start to pull, where I get in an even more upright position than that. Now, the difference will be if your arms are shorter. I think the difference is probably you may end up starting a little bit closer to this position, and then as you pull, you won't get quite as upright as I do. But I'd say that's a pretty good difference in really what happens between the longer arms and shorter arms. These cues are going to work the same for, not exactly the same necessarily, but the principles will work the same for pretty much everybody relative to limb lengths and those kind of things. So these work great for me. I'm a great deadlifter because my arms are as long as what they are, but these things will work across the board just as coaching concepts. So that position right there, where we'll go back to it just a second, where my hips are back, this is going to be the critical point. So right here, right? So this part right here is where we're really saying that there's a wall right in front of the barbell. I'm really trying to open behind this guy right here. And when I get set, so open behind the wall, right? And then here, I'm not trying to squat anymore, right? Once I find that open position with my hips and knees bent, we'll go over how to set your legs a little bit more here in a second. But once I find that solid position with my legs, then it's all going to be the motion is happening from my trunk. So the mistake is that people will end up squatting too much, and then we ruin some of that leverage that we created by squatting too much, and then my back gets around it and all of that. So that's going to be another topic we cover about how to get your back nice and neutral by using these things. So hips back, and then hinge of the hips and find the bar. So the shorter your arms are, the more back your hips will have to be. And then it'll end up, you'll still try to pull your shoulders back on top of your hips like we covered in that anchoring video. So this is the addition to that. So right here, we'll wait till the next video, and then we'll talk about the leg stuff. So in practice, what I'm trying to do here is this is where the cue spread the floor takes place. So as I'm getting set, I'm thinking about my feet pushing out, trying to spread the floor. So I don't like that cue as a once I'm trying to initiate with the pull. I've said stuff before about how I like to think about pulling my chest through my arms and getting stuff moving that way. But as I'm getting set here, I'm trying to push my feet hard, and that creates the good hip position. So right now I have a lot of tension in my quads. I never really lose that. Now, I also am really trying to maintain this neutral back. So I've put a lot of effort so far into creating a brace up top. We can see up in here that I'm feeling a good brace. I'm feeling long arms, all that. Now the mistake people make is that they lose it. They just relax their upper bodies and they bend over and grab the bar, and they're never able to regain that structure that they had in the first place. So spreading the floor hard will engage your quads, and it should also lock your hips into that higher position. If your quads are flexed, then your knees can't bend more, and so then your hips have to stay high. If you relax your quads, or if you just pull yourself down lower, obviously your knees are going to be bending and your quads won't really be, your quads aren't pushing into the floor anymore, and then we lose that good position. So by starting deliberately thinking about spreading the floor is where I'm going to be able to create a lot more tension in my legs and hips and create that good base from the start. And then it all comes from maintaining a brace in the trunk, using your upper back to pull up and back on the bar. So we'll look at that one more time. So I'm spreading the floor hard, and then using my shoulders to anchor back on top of my hips. So the mistake people make, I think, is going to be basically from, we'll go to just a second position. We'll go right here. So I've talked about this before, is that this is going to be pretty much the most critical position, is that I'm not necessarily spreading the floor anymore. That's really still happening, but I'm really being deliberate out pushing force from my quads into the floor and really thinking about this neutral spine, right? So the brace happens up top, is that with the as far as the abdomen part, is I get my air, I do all of that, I lock in that hip and trunk position, hip and rib cage position, and then I come down and I find this spot here. If you relax here, you're probably never going to find that upper back tension again. It's kind of all going to go away. So keeping all of that tight through all of it is going to be the critical point in all of this. So I'm pushing hard, spread the floor, hips back. Back always stays neutral. And then it's just leverages after that. So in this workout, I worked up to this is going to be 705 right here for a pause single. And the next one I think is 738. And all these move pretty well. And I'm doing all of these pause reps right now to help clean up some of the weaknesses that I've had in the middle. So one of the things that we'll see with the pause reps is that it's going to force me to maintain that structure. I'm putting all this effort into maintaining tightness, structure, and then we'll pause right when I pause, so right here. So this is basically the same position that I was imitating as I'm getting set. Right, as I'm getting set, I'm feeling that spot, right? And then as I pull slack and pull, I'm basically getting back into that position again. And these pause reps are a fantastic accessory for maintaining all that. So we can still see that structure is still there. My foot's staying here. My knees, I'm actively trying to spread my knees hard. And that's what keeps my hips close. Now the rest of the cues are what went on in the anchoring videos. I'm trying to pull my chest through, and I pull my shoulders up and back. And that's how we get into this good position. I feel the bar against my leg the whole time. So we're actively trying to spread the floor. I'm trying to spread my knees hard and stay behind that wall as I'm pulling. So that's one of my favorite cues, is just opening behind the bar, opening behind the wall. So we'll go through some working sets and see what happens actually in this set when I don't do it well. So this was a workout I'm actually feeling a little under the weather right now. So this was a pause triple, a 705 that I miss on my third rep. Basically because I get soft in the middle. So all of these look good. Second rep, pretty solid. maintain good tightness on my upper back. And this third, I get soft basically right around the pause. I'm not able to finish it and it gets out in front of me. And it's from a little bit of loss of structure right in the middle. So all this effort that I'm putting in here ends up just getting a little soft and fatigued, and I'd say because I'm not feeling too good. And here's another point too. So right off the floor, one of the things that I give is as soon as I start to pull, my hips come back, but I'd say my knees come in a little bit. So kind of right in here, my upper back gives, my knees come in, all those kind of things. And this is where I've already lost position. So when it gets up top and I miss this rep, it's basically because I didn't, we'll say that I didn't stay behind the wall that's right in front of me. I need to be pushing my chest big and open and getting into that and keeping my hips open. The knees open, hips open is what keeps my hips close to the bar. We'll see that here in another angle here in a second. So that ends up being a miss in front because I just wasn't able to stay tight and stay behind the wall. So, all right, so here's where we'll be able to apply that a little bit more. So I'm going to draw the line from the front of the plates. And when I'm pulling, I can do better than that. When I'm pulling, I'm trying to stay with everything behind this little wall right here. So this is mostly going to be applying to my chest. Open up with my hips, stay behind that, and then I pull my chest and I stay open right behind that through the whole thing. And it makes the whole deadlift much, much more efficient by really trying to stay in position through that. So just paused my first rep here. And the rest of them we're just moving through. So after this one, we'll go into kind of armpit position, shoulder position, and where I think that should be relative to the barbell. All right, so pull behind the wall is going to be the big cue, open behind the wall. But now what we're looking at is, here's a good spot, is that I want my armpits directly, and I messed that one up again. So we'll say my armpit is going to be directly on top of the barbell right there. So this is going to be scapula on top of the bar, whatever. One of the mistakes people make when they're deadlifting is they pull their shoulders too far behind the bar, and then they see themselves getting pulled forward, and they think that's because they're not able to stay back enough, and it's just they're starting too far back, and so they're ending up getting pulled into a position that was probably better for them in the first place. But we just need to start there, and we'll also be able to see here how high my hips are, and then all of the movement when I'm creating this posture is coming from my back is nice and rigid, and I'm going to be creating the motion from there. But we'll kind of take a look at this. So high hips, armpits are going to be basically right on top of the bar through the whole thing, right? And so it's not actually my shoulders, not actually my arms. We'll see that there's a slight angle with my arms moving slightly in front of where the barbell actually is, and my hips are staying high through all of these. So armpits on top of the bar, and then your chest just stays basically right in front of that and doesn't get pulled forward. And the whole time, all of this is initiated by strong legs into the floor, really feeling the floor. Sometimes I'll say that one. Feel the floor, stay tall are kind of my biggest cues that I use. And so right here, nice structure already, hips back, tall shoulders, and then I just push into the floor, pull my shoulders up and back, and we're in business. All right, so some lighter sets here. These are actually with straps, so my position will look really good. But the big thing that I'm going to be emphasizing right here is at the pause, is that you'll see that I'm really fighting hard to keep my knees open. And we'll almost see it, I fix it a little bit, is that as I pull, I'll come and stop, and you can see them opening them up a little bit as I get right here, and that's what keeps my hips close. So very rarely am I actually cueing much of this like hips in right here. I don't know that works very effectively during the pull. It's just really hard to do, but we can cue other things, and that's usually where I cue the stay behind the wall, chest stays behind the wall. I can say that I want to pull up and back with my shoulders and get everything moving right there, and just pull my chest between my arms. That's kind of my biggest one, but we'll see all these looking pretty good. So wide knees, feet into the floor, and we're just trying to stay tall. So the big deal here is just going to be that, especially with where my knees are, my hips are much higher than that when I'm really initiating through the whole thing, and that makes these look really nice. So a lot of times people's problems, I'd say more often than not, people's problems are when they are trying to pull their hips too low instead of just keeping them slightly higher and being able to maintain a better position. So last set here, we'll just see, stay behind the wall, big chest, nice and efficient. And the big deal the whole time, this is, again, we'll emphasize it one more time, is that the most important posture is basically this one right here when I'm really pushing hard into the floor. You can see going from relaxed, this is the pulling, my video about pulling slack. This is basically the most critical position, and I'd say almost the whole deadlift as far as getting your tension. So this is, everything is pushing hard down into the floor. I'm really working hard to maintain rigidity and neutrality in my back. And then from there, the whole cue is just up and through with my chest. So hard with your feet into the floor, neutral back, chest pulls through, and we're in business. We'll make them look really pretty. Just big air right in here. Tall, efficient. And hopefully we'll lock some out next time. So thanks a lot for watching. Tune in next time, subscribe to the channel,